the baling war engine. Number 15 in this series. What I'm doing now is installing these guide pins. It's a dowel pin, putting it right in yonder. These dowel pins, on observance, they protrude on the inside somewhere around 3/8. That's give or take. And let's have a little bit more. I believe that's 3/8. Yeah, it's a little, it's close. That is a used one. I used a brass bar there to drive that in. This is harder than the brass, so just a little knock that burr down there. Just good stewardship. And if we measure that, it's actually 7/16. That'll be okay. And I done already put that in that side over yonder, and well, it's actually 3/8. This is the one. This is the one down here that the fuel pump. That's the guide pin on this side for the fuel pump, and the guide pin on that side to line up this housing. And I have found these houses to be interchangeable, meaning that evidently this side cover was machined maybe on a jig fixture, because the line boring between this side and the other side always lines up correctly. So evidently this part was made as a standalone part also. One of the things that I do, being that we own this baling war engine, I'll just show it to you here. It works for me really, really good, because I don't like no oil, especially if you're going to paint the engine. I like, and I do paint my engines assembled. I've seen no indication that International painted these piece by piece. I think that they assembled it and then just sprayed the engine. But what I do is this bearing right here, as I got it out here on the workbench before I put it into the engine. I'm just going to explain it to you, then we'll get on with it. What I do is I take that, now I guess it's time to bring up gasket sealer. And this right here is that Permatex. This is number 2, meaning that it kind of can, you can take it apart later and put it back together and it'll still work a little bit. This right here is number 1. This is the same stuff. It's this is actually the Loctite brand, and this is the Permatex brand, but if you get to reading on the back of it there, it was made by the same people, identical. This kind right here, they kind of advertise this for a part that ain't going to be took apart. And I do want this right here to have the opportunity to find its own position once I get it all both together, so I'm going to use the non-hardening on it. And what I'll do is I'll squeeze me out a little bit of that Permatex on my finger, and I'll put it right there and right there. Just make just a little bit right yonder. And then what I'll do is I'll set that bearing in there right where it's going to be at. I'll put that bearing in there. And then I also do the same thing at the top. I'll squeeze me a little of that Permatex out there. And I recommend Gasola for this operation also. Just make a circle around through there, put the top piece in there, and then assemble all of this with the thick shim. put your thick shim in there on both sides, and then bolt this. Just put your bolt in there on both sides and snug them up. Okay, I have found out what that does, and you snug them up, and tomorrow, when you come out here tomorrow to put this side cover on the engine and you take it all apart, your bearings will be affixed to the assemblies. So you can take it off, put your shims on, and it won't move around. The reason I explained that to you here where you can see it is on this rod. I've already did that. I used a gasola, and I'll just show you how I did that. And believe me, working in these enclosed crankcase engines, oh, this right here will save the day. I did this a couple of days ago, and there's that rod cap and the thick shim and a thick shim. Okay, and you can see there where that gasola squaws out there. Oh, I'll take a little bit of thinner and get that excess gone. But now, the beauty of this, the reason I did that, is when you got this thing all up inside that crankcase right there, and you put this together and you tighten it up, and you say, uh-oh, it's too tight. The crank that won't turn. You left the shim out. Okay, at that point, when you take this all apart, this bearing falls down in the crankcase. But if you put that little bit of gasket sealer in there and just kind of more or less glue that together, and especially with the gasola, that will it'll move around. Right now I could just take it apart, but it's on there. It's not glued tight, but it's secure. I'll show you another thing that we're going to do on the baling wire, and I'm explaining this to you. And what I'm going to do is move the camera around there and just put it all together and be done with it. This part. And another thing, probably ought to have told it to you right now, is to make life easier for yourself is to file those alignment notches a little deeper. And even if you want to run you a little dab of paint, and I will, I won't leave that exposed metal right there. What I'll do, just take a little swipe of white paint on both sides to mark that. And that way, when you're up in that crankcase looking around, you won't get it backwards. Just make life easy for yourself out here on the workbench.